Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dylan. I'm your host, joined by my blue collar badass. Today, Matt and I just go into it. So that's what you're going to hear today is just us going into it. So without further ado, take it away, Dylan and Matt.
How's it going, man? I just turned this hot mic so we can chat, we can cut it up, whatever you want to do.
I'm good either way, man. Honestly, like I'm in one of those kind of interesting like times where I have a lot of stuff out there and now I'm just waiting for it to all come back. And so I'm like a lot of folks, and dealing with this is just like, it's the boredom, of there's stuff to do, right? But my days aren't fully full. And so it's to like just not screw it up, more than anything is kind of what like phase I'm in right now.
It's like it's the juggler's dilemma, right? You're waiting for the balls to come back down, but you can't get too far out of the way, otherwise you'll start dropping them.
Yeah. So it's like, I show up, I'm, not doing like a phase right now. I probably could, but I'm not doing that. So I'm not like necessarily being, clean on the diet, that kind of stuff, but I'm still knocking off all my training for my 100 mile. Like just going to the range more, getting all those pieces in, like try keeping everything moving, but at the same time, like there's just a lot of time in my day where I don't have to like be somewhere, do something, or it's kind of weird, It's like I left at 3 and spent, an hour at the range yesterday, by 4 o'clock or whatever.
You know what
So
though, man? That's good to do, right? I mean, we all get so caught up in being busy. I took a week off and went on vacation last week. That's a little bit different, but you know, there's gonna be time to be busy forever. If you can take an hour, take 2 hours, whatever it is, and go enjoy it, do something you like, you'll be better for it.
well, and that's just it. As soon as I left the office, you know, my phone rang, right? Like deals show up or people need stuff. And it's like, of course,
That's how it
as soon
goes. Yeah.
as, soon as I leave, everything happens. But I mean, on the whole, like there's nothing really to like boredom isn't a thing to complain about, but that's, where I'm at.
Yeah. No, I get it, man. I get it. It's a weird feeling when you go from being, 200 miles an hour to all of a sudden 50 miles an hour and you're still keeping up.
Yeah. And I've been like a big project guy. Like I get the most kind of enjoyment, fulfillment out of like starting to getting into a project of some sort, whether that's building software or like working on a design for a new project or building out systems, processes, whatever. And like I'm sure there's stuff that I could do in that regard, in that realm, but nothing that rises to the level of like, yeah, you really need to get this done like now. And so yeah, that's part of it too, is just like, all right, well, we'll just keep operating and nothing breaks, then keep moving.
Yeah, I mean it's a weird time because it's half of the tattoo I'm getting soon. Procrastination is a thief, right? And when you got that time, you almost feel like you should be working on all those other things that you never have time to do when you're busy. But it's also real easy to want to just chill out. And I think it's important too.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the stuff that like we've talked about, off air, but is I mean, I went through this young, fortunately, is like getting shingles and doing that thing. Like I understand that, it's okay to just like hang out, it's okay to not do anything at night. It's okay to like put your phone in the other room and not answer people. Like that's okay to do. Um, and like it's not to not push things forward. Like things are still moving. Like I'm still making phone calls, I'm still doing outreach, I'm still doing all the pieces. I've just built really good systems and then it doesn't take me long to do things. And then some of it's just waiting on like for me, I'm doing more now with contractors. So it's just like they have all the information. It's waiting for projects to come back or, you know, show up, manifest in their business and so that they call me, right? Like there's nothing for me to do today in that regards. And then I don't want to be an annoying like pest to these guys either, right? I don't want to just keep showing up or keep sending them stuff just to send them things. I
Right.
want to make sure that I'm providing value. And with most of these guys, like they know, I don't need to keep hammering on them or pestering them to get stuff or, when's the next project coming? Like they'll reach out. So a lot of stuff like that, man, where like I've done my part and putting stuff out on LinkedIn, like people know who I am. They can find all my information and content. Like there's nothing that I need to like continually do. And I think more of it's just like I spend more time reading. Like I've read for, well, this week, like a couple hours each day, like that's just what I find myself doing more of and trying to spend less time on social media.
Wow, that's a good thing in and of itself, man. There's a balance you got to find in those touch points with clients and prospects. But you nailed it. Like you don't want to be the guys that are in my DM on LinkedIn who are just constantly badgering me or whoever for shit. You got to stay top of mind, but there's a tactful and strategic way to do that, right? And once you figure that out, I'm with you. Like you touch and go, and they'll find you when they need to, and as long as they can find you when they need to, then you're good.
Yeah. And I think, well, that's the big thing too, man, is like, um, I've gotten brought into some deals and some projects here recently where people have just dropped the ball, man. Like we have some big stuff brewing and it's all because, people dropped the ball. Like they didn't communicate, they didn't follow up, their support was terrible, right? Like when people just want an answer and you could have a worse product, right? And in construction, I mean, frankly, your product is pretty much all the same, right? You're getting your
Yeah.
materials from the same people, the same places, your installation better be better, but like it all comes down to service and support. It comes to like answering a phone call, or giving people pricing. Like it's not like most of this stuff is not rocket science, but like I've had, well, this week, like the call that I got was an opportunity that someone just dropped. And it's like, okay, cool. And then a lot of the stuff that I'm getting with some of the contractors and working with them is all, well, partially it's because of my software, but also like I'm educating people as we go through the process. Like, uh, folks don't really know how to price things or what like design costs. And I can, because I've run these numbers so many times, like I can break down what a design cost is and a price per square foot. Do you know what that does to a contractor if I can give him a design price per square foot for their estimating purposes and to know going into a project? Like, here's what my price is for, warehouses and like big open spaces. Here's my price for offices and more complex shit. If you have a hospital, let's talk. I'm not going to price that, but like, here's baseline square foot pricing, man, for electrical design, not signed and sealed. Like, again, let's talk if you need that, but like, here it is, and this is how it gets done. And, I do it for half of what, or, some fraction, depending on the project, of what a design firm would do, you know?
Well, yeah, and that's huge. I mean, it's coming from a pre-con guy, like to be able to break things down into terms of per square foot, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's design, electrical, plumbing, anything. Like that's gold to us because now we can budget. Now we can do conceptual level, high end shit. We're giving away the secrets to the sauce here, but that's what it is. And if you can provide that to somebody, and then that somebody you're providing it to can turn around and turn it into a project and then come back and say, all right, you're X dollars per square foot. Let's go. We need it. Let's sign on the dotted line. And you said something I want to go back to that, our products are all basically the same. I 100% agree with you. What's different is the experience, right? And we can all sell the same shit, but it's how we do it. It's how we make the client or the prospect feel, how the process goes, how all the fluffy stuff, if you will, that gets overlooked. And that's why That's why some firms kick ass and succeed, and some sit there wondering, why nobody calls them. It's the experience, because a box is a box, right? Steel's steel, wood's wood, doesn't matter. It's all the same. It's that experience that you create and provide and the relationship you build because of that really will differentiate you.
It's really that simple, man. Like, and some of the folks that I've been talking to that I know through Arte, like, he's like, my whole business is built on support and service. Like, I'm smaller than everybody else. They still run a very healthy business, but compared to some of the publicly traded companies out there, like, I'm a small guy, right? Like, I don't do, you know, billions in revenue, right? So in comparison, and he runs a good, 7, 8 figure business. And it's like, he's small. It's still good, right? But everything he does operates on fast turnaround times, getting people what they need, doing all the right parts and pieces. Like, it's not hard. It's just it takes some effort. And again, it's just being in the office. Like, but it or for him, he does a lot of business development. That's kind of his thing. And so he spends a lot of time on golf courses. And then the people that he's met through there, like the deals that he gets brought into are just like incredible. But he spends time with people, but he's also making sure that he's, answering calls, responding to emails or putting them to the right people to make sure they get responded to. And I think like just that simple thing of like responding to emails or carving out and I found this too, especially like working on the West Coast, is by the time I get up and start to deal with stuff, like, again, I get up at 6:37, like get up, do my reading, do all my like, and I get that's late for a lot of people, but again, just like that's what I've always operated at. I get up at like 6:37, I'm into the office by 8 by and large, unless I have early calls. But that's just like, and I know you're like a 5 o'clock guy or whatever, and
Yeah, but I was just laughing. But that you're six when you get up at 6:37, like I'm already eating lunch on the East Coast.
yeah, well, but that's the point, right? Is like no one expects that out of like being on the West Coast. Like nobody expects anything, right? And they just assume like afternoon, right? So by the time that I get up, I read, do all my thoughts for the day, like all that kind of stuff. And then, I spend whatever hour plus, and then just say by 8:30, 9 o'clock, like I'd start to roll into work mode and answer all the emails that have come in for the morning, like go through anything that came in last night. Like I can spend 20 minutes to deal with the majority of shit that came in overnight or that morning that is noon. And then I really only have to deal with email till 2 o'clock my time, because most of the people that I deal with are on the East Coast. So at 2 o'clock, I don't have to really worry about email. Maybe till 3, people shoot stuff at like 6 o'clock. But a lot of this is like I'm bringing this up because I have found, because of how I handle email, that you can wait a few hours for a lot of this stuff. I'll handle it in 20 minutes versus sitting there and just waiting for it to all come in. And then I can handle it again at like noon, unless there's like some time sensitive stuff. You're waiting for something to come through, to as soon as it comes through, you need to like give information to somebody else or, assimilate it or whatever.
Yeah.
But if it's not, there's no time sensitive stuff in there. Like you can wait, like I can wait again until like noon to deal with email, right? Like it's no different than you being in meetings all day and not getting to it till noon or 2 or whenever, and then go through them in 20 minutes. Like it's such a big time saver for me to where I can just pound through all of them quickly, forward what I need to whoever, deal with whatever I need, and be done with it. Like it's not hard.
Dude, it's such a good topic, and I didn't know you were going to bring that up. I'm glad you did, because I wanted to kind of, I just finished 75 hard and went through some serious shit during it, and I wanted to bring it up and kind of touch on it. But that's a big part of it, right? And where this is going, but it's something we could all learn from, because we all have the crack in our hands, right? We all have these phones that we're attached to, and we feel this like this intrinsic need to be constantly checking, right? Constantly looking to see how many, numbers are in the red bubble or whatever the hell it is on your phone. And it's bullshit. You don't need it. And you nailed it with your meeting example. Like that happens to me all the time, right? I'll be in meetings from 8 o'clock until 4 o'clock. And then I go check my email and I scan through it. And all of a sudden I'm really, really productive at weeding out the crap and grabbing the things I need to respond to. But now the next day when I'm not in meetings all day, I am checking email constantly. My Outlook's up, from the time I sit down to the time I leave. And when I leave, I got my phone in my hand and I'm always checking. Like there's going to be some fucking lottery ticket that's going to spring up out of nowhere. And that's just not what happens. And so, I mean, back it up a little bit. So 75 hard, man.
Which
I started
congrats, by the
70.
way.
What's that?
Congrats on the finish, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. So this is the second time that I've succeeded, that I've made it all the way through. It was the easiest time that I've done it, but it was the most challenging at the same hand, right? So I started off, and on day one, I came down with shingles. Now you've been preaching to me for however long we've known each other, 3+ years now, about the dangers of stress, and you're running with shingles. And here I am, day one of 75 hard, which if you haven't learned about the program, get out from underneath your rock and figure it out. If you haven't tried it, then you need to man up, sack up and give it a shot. But day one, and I get this burning, searing rash that literally feels like someone has taken a knife every time I move and just cutting me all the way from chest to back. And that goes on for about 3 weeks. The first 2 weeks, my workouts were lame. They were like old lady workouts, dude. I walked on my treadmill and I kind of hobbled around outside trying not to rub it, and after the third week, I was done with it, and I just kind of fought through it and started lifting again. But it was eye-opening, right? Because I'm a hell of a lot older than you, but I'm not that old of a dude, right? I'm 40 at the time. I was 42, and so for me to get shingles, like, what the hell is going on? And obviously, we've had this conversation, so I start kind of thinking about that, and then I shit you not, it was probably a month after that, maybe, when I told you about what happened to me coming home from work. So I'm driving home, and it was a stressful ass day. Work has been, especially 2.5 months ago, it was in a real stressful period. We were pushing projects up to the hill. Things that should have been signed up last year to fill us for this year weren't completely done yet. So it was just this weird scenario. We were dealing with employee shit and people coming and going. And anyways, thank God it happened how it did, because it could have been a lot worse. But I get home and I was fiery pissed, which is not unusual. But I pull in my garage. I was all pissed off, shut the truck off, jump out of the door. And the second I hit the pavement, I just lost it. Like, boom, lights out. And I somehow caught myself on the way down and pulled myself back into my truck so my kids wouldn't see me. But those two events, like, it hit me in the face like a ton of bricks, man. I literally had to call Carrie, had to call my wife from my truck in the garage. I was like, you need to come out here. I don't know what the hell's going on. And she came out like I was kidding. I'm sitting there like sweating bullets. My heart is beating out of my chest. And it was that day or day after when you and I had that talk. And, changing the way we're living is a huge component of what we all need to be doing right now, because it is, take aside owning a business and being an entrepreneur and in the construction world, that's a different genre, right? The world in general right now is just so friggin' stressful with everything politically going on and all of the bullshit. It literally could have killed me, and it was really eye-opening. And now, you had a ton of great tips for me in private when we talked about, how to manage these things better. And I appreciate the hell out of that. And I haven't done all of them, but I've made strides, right? But the email thing is one that gets me, right? Like, it's so easy to just be connected until you fall asleep. And it is so disruptive to everything that we should be doing as humans. So finding a way to put the damn phone down and to walk away, it's like when I'm away from my house, all right, my kids, my wife, and I have this rule that if they need me, like really, really friggin' need me, something's wrong, house is on fire, shit. Call me and keep calling me. Like, call me 3 times, 4 times in a row, and I'll answer. I don't care who I'm with. You call me once, I'm not touching it. But it's the same idea, right? And if somebody needs you, if a project's on fire, like, they're going to call you, and they're going to call and call and call. Other than that, put the shit away and wait. You can deal with it the next morning whenever you get around to it, or whenever it falls into place. And it's a lot of rambling, I know, but that is a pandemic, right? That is of epidemic proportions in this society we live in now, is this constant connection to media and phones and all the bullshit.
So the other day, like when I was in Vegas, I saw this uh protest or whatever outside of the Venetian.
I saw your
And
post.
yeah, and like it kind of came off, or like some people took it in a different light, thought that I was bashing some communities. So within this, right, there's people with all these flags, outside of the Venetian. And it's like there's a gay pride flag, but it wasn't just like the rainbows. It had like a triangle in it, which I don't know what that symbolizes, but I'm sure it's not just the LGBT community.
Sure.
It's whatever else out there. And then there's some communist flags, like straight up hammer and sickle stuff. There was a Black Panther flag in the crowd. Like, so you had all these different communities, together. And it's like, and I'm calling out communism because it's killed more people than anything. Um, religions up there too, but like these ideologies have killed more people than pretty much anything else. And it's like, this should not be tolerated here is really the message. But, because I said gays, it stirred up this thing. And, and again, like, I don't care who you love, have sex with, like that, outside of kids, right? If you're an adult, like, do whatever, man. Like, consenting adults, don't care. And it had this conversation with my wife because she thought, that I meant offense or it sounded bad. But really, if you took out like me calling out that like there's a gay pride flag within this group of things, right? Then it was just really me hating on communism, which was more the point. But anyway, this all goes to the point of like, in us having this conversation, my wife and I, is, you know, as much as me speaking out about something on social media, it's, me getting it off my chest, people get all fired up about it. It's not going to make a difference in the grand scheme of things. But what will make a difference is talking to somebody one on one, right? Like the conversations you and I have, the conversations that I had, like at this wine growers meeting that we went to the other day, that my wife and I went to and talked to some of the old guys and farmers there. And the reason that I bring this up in the whole context of email, social media, is the impacts that we have are in real life. And our email, yes, it impacts real life, but it's been a device that, because of its instantaneous nature, people expect an instantaneous response. And social media is the same way, right? You put something out there, you expect an instantaneous response. Or, if somebody comments, they expect an instantaneous response versus like doing things in the mail, where shit, depending on the ponies that the USPS is running, it could be there in 3 days. It could be there in 3 weeks, depending on, the horses that they've got. But, all that to say, like, email can wait by and large, to your point. You know, Posting on social media, like, you might stir up some emotion. It might make you feel better in the moment, but like your impact is going to be made in more one and long form content so that you can express your opinion fully. Two, in real life and in person. And conversations that you have on a daily basis. And then three, just through your normal actions, right? The things that you're doing, which, like I posted me being on the treadmill for 2.5 hours. And some guy was like, are you bragging or complaining? Because my nose, like, I rubbed it raw basically just in wiping the sweat off. And it's like, dude, I don't neither. Like, it's just what it is. So, all this to say, like, in the email thing, in how we deal in life is like, and I don't even know this person, right? And that's the point, is the people that you're gonna really care about are the people you're gonna call on the phone, that you're gonna have a real person encounter with. And most of the stuff on social media, email, like, by and large, on social media, you probably don't know the people. On email, you deal with them in a work capacity from 8 to 5, right? Normal work hours. And outside of that, again, unless you're second shift guy or the world's on fire, it can wait till tomorrow.
Yes. And I saw the comment you're referring to, and I almost went after the guy just myself, but I didn't want to muddy up your post. But you know, those are the people that talk shit about, you posting about working out, or me talking about 75 hard. They're the fat asses that live in mom's basement. All right, let's be real. They're the ones that haven't accomplished anything, and that's how they that's how they justify it to themselves. But it's so
I was
social
like,
media and the
just
email.
just wait, man, until I post that I ran 100 miles. Then you'll know
Exactly.
I'm bragging. Like,
Exactly. Then it's a big middle finger back to him, right? It's a conditioned response, though, right? And that's the email checking, that's the social media checking. We've conditioned ourselves, or allowed ourselves to be conditioned to have to do that. And it's very similar. And going along with my 75 hard story, it's we've conditioned ourselves to drink a lot of alcohol as a society. Um, so, and I'm not bragging, but I'm going to keep going with my 75 hard. So day one, I get shingles. Month one, I pass out in my garage. The middle of that time frame is my 43rd birthday. After that was St. Patrick's Day. And the day before, day 74, my grandma passes away suddenly. So I've got a handful of shit that happened when my normal conditioned response, truth be told, would have been like, all right, it's time for some drinks. Let's drink a bottle of wine, drink 3 bottles of wine, get some bourbon, something to, ease the pain, make it go away. And it's just reassuring to me, frankly, to prove to myself that, I went through some pretty rough shit for me personally during those 75 days, and I nailed it. And if I can do it, if I can do that, then I can also get away from the stupid telephone, the cell phone. I can get away from the social media, right? Because but it's all the same thing. It's fighting those conditioned responses, and figuring out a way to do what is better for you, and formulate a plan to keep that as your habit instead of being your hard. And that's the goal of the whole damn program, really. At the end of it, is to get rid of the bullshit out of your life and find a better way to keep moving forward.
that's it, man. Like, me doing a lot of, so when you start to go to like community events, right? Like, we went to this wine growers association um up in Amador County, and for them, so it's also in the foothills, right? And a good chunk of folks there. I mean, it's a big wine area, and most everyone there was in their shit, late 50s. Like, the guy that I was talking to was 74, still working, no retirement, grows grapes, runs a backhoe service, and it's, a guy in his truck, right? And most of these folks, they're good, hardworking people. And so me showing up, I'm 30, what am I? 32 right now. So, like, young people, right? And even the new president they have for this, which is why, everybody got together, all this stuff, he's probably in his early 40s, I would say. So relatively young for the group, but these groups want youth, right? They want, adults, right? But they want younger folks to come in, take the mantle and go with it. But in having these conversations, and the same goes for my gun club, they want young people to come in and do it. They'll give you all the stuff, they'll teach you all the things, they're more than willing to have all the conversations, to uh do it and be there. And me, for the one club that I go and shoot at quite a bit, they take note, man, like, of who's there, of who's helping, of who's showing up, right? And they care about it and want people to be there, to show up, to use the facilities, to, you know, be part of the community. And I think all this is in real life. Like you had to physically show up to these things. You know, you can't, like, as much as people play Call of Duty, that's not going to help you in a real life scenario. You know, like it's just not. And so most all this stuff is in real life. And, you know, granted, like the shooting and competitions are a little mixed, but I would still say I'm on the younger side of people there. Um, you know, I don't know of, there's a few like super young guys like 18 and whatnot there, but then there's, you know, maybe a handful of guys in their 20s, early 30s, and then most everybody else is late 40s, you know, and up. And it just goes to show like of how much real life, you know, and getting out and doing things. And I mean, the same goes for construction, right? Like pretty much everybody that you deal with on a day-to-day basis is, you know, 40 plus, you know, like very few in their 30s, almost nobody in their 20s. And, you know, unless they're a greenhorn or whatever, but for most of the meetings that like you're in, you know, it's old guys, you know. So I don't really know what the point is other than get out. Like all this stuff is in real life, you know, and the more that I go out and do these things with the community, man, they're dying for it. They want people to show up and be part of their event, you know, their community. And people thanked us because we drove like an hour and a half for this wine event. They were like thanking us for making the drive. It's like, whatever, man. It's not that big a deal. Sure, it was like a Thursday night or whatever, but we kind of treat it as like a date night thing, and
Yeah.
you just go drink some wine, and you know, they fed everybody, and yeah, man, it was a good time.
It's people's desire to pass the torch, right? I mean, we've talked about this a lot in the construction mindset, right? In that, you know, everybody wants to be able to pass that torch before it burns out. And these older guys, older people, you know, whether they're the old guys in the construction industry or the old guys farming grapes, like they want to be able to pass down that wealth of knowledge and experience that they've fought and earned over the years, or the guys at the gun club, you know, they don't want that to stop when they stop. And the only way we can do that is if we get youth into construction, youth into the wine club, youth into the gun club, you know, within reason, obviously. But you know, it's getting back to community, and it all ties in. Everything we're talking about, none of this is scripted, I promise, but like it all ties into the desensitization and the ruining of society that we've allowed to happen through social media. And I'll stand behind that all day long. It's the chaos theory, you know. It's we've allowed it to infiltrate every aspect of our lives, and now we're to the point where you got to really fight to crawl out of that hole. You have to.
Well, and that's just it, man. Like I've been, as much like good as I do and put out there, like I've been a little lost too, and just like seeing what's happening. It's like, man, what can I really do? How can I contribute? You know, I don't feel like I'm doing enough, which I mean, part of that's just my personality. Part of it's like, where can I really make an impact, you know, in politics, and, you know, me complaining about whatever it might be, right, isn't totally beneficial to everybody. And but when I go out and have real conversations with folks, that has an impact, you know, like especially like talking about environmental stuff. You know, it's like most of these people are just, they're uneducated, they're uninformed, and they're purely ignorant. You know, it's not that their heart's in the wrong place, they just don't know any better, right, and been told wrong information. And when you talk to these farmers, you know, it's the same way. You know, they want education, they want to know a better way to fertilize their crops, right, or take it to market, or, you know, find out who's selling used equipment that they might be able to get, or find ways to sell their grapes or whatever, you know, crop they might be growing. Like they do want to know, but at the same time, like they're not going to change drastically, but they want that help. And, you know, with it too, the thing that I keep getting reminded in a lot of this is you've got to show up for a considerable amount of time. You've got to put a good chunk of hours in before people are gonna kind of open up. Now, some you're gonna get immediately just for being there and being young, and they, hey, you want to be president? Uh, and that's like how a lot of these places operate. But at the same time, like you can get in, you can learn, you can do that, and you will make a much bigger impact to your community than any person with a million followers that just stays on, the internet.
Absolutely, man. And you'll be healthier and happier for it. We I gotta approach this story kind of delicately. But it kind of ties into everything we're talking about, and a general like lack of healthy Americans, right? So yesterday, as of day of this recording, my my director at the company and I interviewed a guy. We're looking to bring a project manager on board, and we met this dude through a mutual acquaintance. He was highly recommended. He came in, and he was an older gentleman, and I say that with all due respect. He was up there, right? Probably not the healthiest dude, big guy. Our office is on the second story of a 2-story building. We have no elevator because we're beneath the square footage where it's required. So he had a bit of a struggle getting up the stairs. Made a couple comments about bad knees type thing. So anyways, we interviewed the guy, and interview went fine. He was a wealth of knowledge. And so to tie back to one thing we've talked about, like we're talking with this guy and his mindset, he long ago could have retired. In fact, he did, and he didn't like it. He said he felt like he was getting slow, right? He was slipping. And so he went back to work, and I'm not going to say his age. He's up there, right? So he went back to work, and we were talking with him like, well, you're kind of what we're looking for in a roundabout way. Someone to come in and help mentor the greenhorns, mentor the young guys that haven't been doing this for, half as long as you have, and to help pass that torch, pass that knowledge down so that, we can continue to grow and continue to foster this sense of how we do things. So that was kind of our topic of the interview, really. And it's all good. Interview ends, we shake hands. So I'm not on 75 hard anymore, but I've kept up the water intake. So I have to pee like every hour without fail. So the dude steps into the stairwell, he's leaving, and I go right into the bathroom. I'm peeing, and I hear what sounds to me like a explosion. Like I thought somebody must have jumped the curb and literally run a truck into our building. So in the time, it's later in the day. It's me, and 2 of my teammates are all that's left in the building. I get out of the bathroom and I turn the corner, and this dude missed the step on the landing and fell on an entire flight of stairs. Entire flight of stairs, man. And older dude, big dude, 12, 13 steel pan steps, concrete filled pan steps. I turn the corner, and my teammates, which I'm continually bragging about them now because they sprang into action like they'd been training for this. They're already down there. They've got napkins. They're sopping up blood. I mean, the dude was a mess, right? He fell a long way. His face was all jacked up. He had a contusion. You could, see stuff inside his head. He was bleeding profusely. The whole side of his face was all ripped up from falling. His arms bleeding. And, again, my teammates are down there like they may have well has been EMTs that day, yesterday. And they're sopping up blood and changing out, for clean ones. And it was awesome to see because I was an EMT in a previous life. And I'm watching this like, well, holy shit, this is that human element that we're all missing. my point in even saying this, first of all, I'll finish it up with, we got the guy cleaned up. He wouldn't stay on the ground against me yelling at him to stay on the ground, but we got him into a chair. Finally, police showed up. Our entire city is under construction right now, so it took the ambulance an exorbitant amount of time to get there, but they got there. After a lot of arguing, the guy agreed to go with them versus trying to drive himself. And we heard from the gentleman later that night, or his wife, and he was pretty banged up, but he was doing okay. But the reason I wanted to bring it up, not because it's an amazing story that, could have ended really bad and frankly didn't, because in no short part of my teammates and what they did, but it's it ties back to this general unhealthy nature that we've allowed to become reality, and I'm dancing around it because I'm trying to be sensitive too for what happened. But let's just rip off the band-aid. The dude was overweight. He was very overweight, and just wasn't a healthy guy. And he could have lost his life because of that. Something as stupid and as mindless as stumbling on a stair. Like I've done it in that building, and now thank God I've never actually fallen. I've never gone that far. I didn't see it, and I'm glad I didn't, because I probably wouldn't be able to forget it. I saw him afterwards, but I mean, that messed this dude up something fierce. And I have to believe that if the guy was in better physical health, that it wouldn't have been nearly as severe as what it was. And it's weird to try and tie this all back to what we've been talking about, but I think it fits, right? I mean, we've allowed ourselves to get very unhealthy, and it's got to stop, because otherwise, I mean, you can paint the picture for yourselves, right? It doesn't end well.
It's man, I have well, nothing bad happened, but there was an old guy. So when we go to do Action Pistol, there's anywhere from I think we got what, like 8 to 10 shooters maybe per like bay, and you kind of all stay together and you move, to each stage together. So you're with these folks for like 3 hours, which I get to know some guys pretty well, over that
Yeah.
span of time, and you kind of see the same guys, and it's, like, hey, what's your name again? I forgot, but good to see you and all that kind of stuff. And there was a guy that was there, older gentleman, probably weighed every bit of 300 pounds, not shorter than me, so he's probably like 5'8", so not a tall guy by any means, older dude. And like there was a younger guy, he was probably my age, so late 20s, early 30s, range officer and safety officer for the course. And like he had to keep reminding this guy on like a reload to not put his hand in front of the barrel, because he was racking his slide off the front of the gun, which is also a problem. But because he didn't want to use the sight that he had on it. And it's just like, dude, you're 1 year old. Two, if you've been shooting for a long time, like this should be second nature to you.
Yeah.
And it like wasn't. And so they had to keep reminding him of all this safety stuff. And then, like he lost a mag, but it was stuck in his belt between he couldn't see it because he was so fat that his belly hid it from him. And it was just like a sad sight to see, like dude
Yeah.
couldn't stand up. We're in the sun, he's having these safety issues. I mean, to him personally, not to anybody else, but it's just like, come on, man, you're going to blow your finger off here. And that's not anything anybody wants to deal with. And one of the women helping him, she's probably, I don't know, 60-ish something. And on the other hand, for her, like 2 years ago, she got her back fully like reconstructed, as rods in her back, can't lift her leg more than a few inches. And she's just like the happiest, lucky to be out there, woman. And it's just like that was even one of the questions to her doctors, like, when can I go out and shoot again? And she like came out, ran the course, and it took her like an hour to do it one time. And, she was happy to be out there. So you had like these two very polar opposites, and not to say that she was in the best shape, but like, shit, man, she had her whole back redone and has rods in it and like can't really lift her leg, that much on her left side. So she kind of hobbles a little bit, but like gets through the course of fire. And then you have this 300-pound and, similar ages. I don't know what they actually are, and I didn't ask,
Sure.
but it's like, two very different paths of life. for these people. And one, is super happy to be there. One is like, falling off the edge. And I don't, what other mental pieces or started to have Alzheimer's or whatever for the guy, but it's just like to that point, if you're physically healthy, you have less and less of these symptoms too for like, Alzheimer's, dementia, things like that to come into it. And we gotta again as a community, like everybody took care of this guy, right? Like much like your teammates took care of him, of that guy. But it just goes to this whole bigger point of like people are very much willing to step up, right? The goodness of humanity is we're willing to step up, we're willing to help people, make sure they're not going to hurt themselves, teach people. But at the same time, like, man, we shouldn't have to, like it shouldn't have to be this much of a requirement to do on a regular basis.
You're right. Like it's like basic level shit, right? Eat healthy, exercise, don't drink too much, don't shoot your hand off. You know, I don't know, man. I've been done a lot of reflecting, obviously, over the last few months here because of everything going on. But I look at my grandmother who just passed away. She was 92 years old.
It's a
She and
full
my,
life.
yeah, man, she and my grandfather celebrated their 70th wedding anniversary this year.
Wow.
That's something. And she got to meet a whole slew of great grandchildren. Like I never knew any of my great grandparents ever. But my point is like she led a pretty damn healthy life. Like they were active, 92 years old, and her and my grandfather still, but like sharp as a tack, dude. Like that doesn't happen on accident, and we got to start taking notes from these things because otherwise we're going to end up like, like the dude at the bottom of the stairs. I want to see my grandkids someday. And hell, if I can see my great grandkids, that's that's next level shit to me.
Well, that's just it, man. Like, so I've been reading 40 Laws of Power, and in there, Robert Greene has all these like quotes, and it's kind of like a hard book to read, honestly, because he puts in all these like sub stories and like the margins and stuff, which they're incredible. But it's like, come on, man, like I want a cohesive story. But anyway, beside the point, a lot of those like sidebar stories or quotes or whatever, you see it, and it's like from third century philosopher or guy in the 1400s or 1800s or whatever. These guys lived to be like 80, 90 years old, like in the 14 and 1500s, 1600s, 1800s. Like, it's like, well, what were they doing to live so long? Well, one, they like probably didn't really get sick. Two, they didn't die in a war or something like that. And really the biggest one is they lived past, two, which is where most everybody died in, ancient times was we couldn't keep kids alive, which is why you had to have like 12 of them because you couldn't keep them alive past like 2 years old.
Yeah.
You know, the infant mortality rate was very high. But like you go back to like what were they eating, right? Like 1400s, meat, cheese, you know, bread, wine, like that's it. Outside of that, like no processed food because you didn't have it. You sourced everything locally because cars weren't around. So like that's what you did. It was you meat, cheese, bread, dairy, milk, like all
You
the stuff they say are bad for you. But
you
like,
walked everywhere, right? Drank lots of water.
yeah, I mean, it's like not hard stuff, like you drink water and wine and that's like it. It was a very simple time. And I think, to really going back to the whole social media thing is, and really our phones and technology, like life is pretty simple when you allow it to be, right? There's only certain things you need to do in email. Heck, one of our mentors like doesn't even look at email. He's got a guy for that. And then, but I'm sure there's 1,000 things in his phone. But at the same time, he said, like, there's a lot of folks in there. I just don't respond to. It's like billionaires, like they can wait. I got shit to do. And that's a very freeing like attitude to it. Not everyone can run that way for sure. Like you need some systems processes, people to like not ever check email. But to have somebody come and like knock on your door to tell you to deal with something, right? Or be in the next meeting. But for most of us, we can do it to where we deal with email like 3 times a day and you're going to cover everything. And I think that's where we can take some notes. And I've been lucky that I set my phone in the other room, mainly because I don't have a nice plug next to my bed, so I just put it in the other room at night. And you know I'm starting to do it earlier and earlier. Like last night I did it 6:30. Like I'll deal with it tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good thing to do. I break that rule. I use it as an alarm clock, and that's part of the allure of it. Right now, it's with me always. Like I may not be checking it, but it's right there. But truth be told, I have an old fashioned alarm clock I could plug in and turn the dial, and I'd wake up just the same. It's just a matter of reconditioning yourself, and it doesn't have to be drastic, right? You don't have to do 75 hard, although you should. But it doesn't have to be drastic. You can make small incremental changes that over time will provide you with I mean, at the end of the day, a better way of life, right? I mean, it's going to take baby steps. It's going to be little changes that happen and little things you'll notice in your physique or in your mental health and your sleep, your quality of sleep, but over time you keep stacking those chips and you're going to be a better, healthier human. That should be all of our goal.
Yeah, I mean, dude, when I run, like even no matter what really my diet is, and I still gotta like tune it in for this training program. But whenever I like start to do significant mileage, and this is not my recommendation by any means, it's just what I do. Like when I start to do significant like training blocks, and significant training mileage, like so much of my life clears up, whether that's just by happenstance or not. Like things happen more whenever I'm training for big events or doing races. Like I make more money. Like it's happened that way is in doing subsequent events and more events and bigger events, like which really just adds more training. Like I make more money, like, and my physique hasn't necessarily changed. Like shit, I did Ironman at 210 pounds, right? Like I weigh 193 right now, but like, there's some big dudes that do Ironman, but at the end of the day, like, it's it doing those events, those training blocks, that physical exertion, like made me more money. It made me more confident in a lot of things. Like there's a lot of, even though like the diet wasn't necessarily there, drinking was still a part of it, especially, I did Ironman in my early 20s. Like, it's just what it was, right? I could get up and go for a run after a night out, that's how it worked. Can't do that these days. But uh to say like you don't have to go to these extremes either, right? Like 75 hard to 45-minute workouts. Even if you do half hour a day or 45 minutes a day of it, like in are very consistent in that, your life will improve. Like even if you do nothing else, just you'll feel better, you'll get out there and do it. You're going to listen to more podcasts or books, all that type of stuff. Like, the amount that I'm running these days where like pretty much every weekend from here till the end of August, like I will be running a minimum of 2.5 hours a day, like on Saturday and Sunday, and most of that, well, in July, it's probably going to be like 4 hours on Saturday and Sunday, to then it's like, well, okay, well, I need a lot of material to go through to be, on that trail for that long. And I listen at 1.5 speed. So it's like I need 6 hours of content a day to like go through to fill that bound of time. And so, the amount that I read or listen to, the amount that like I'm out there, most of which is in nature, like even if it's on the treadmill for you, like cool, man, just get out there, do stuff. Like you'll feel better. You'll meet some people. Most of the time, it's just alone that I'm out there doing this stuff, but the amount of confidence that you get, whether you do with other people or community, um, again, totally up to you, man, on how you approach that. But I found that these challenges and tests, will not only they'll make you happier, but it's kind of like that Goldilocks zone of being able to push yourself and challenge yourself and take it to the next level. And you need to find that, in physical ways as well as, mental ways of, pushing and getting to that next level.
For sure, man. And it all starts with building that mental discipline, right? And guys, you can't see us right now, although stay tuned because we are launching a YouTube channel in the very near future. But when that happens, pay attention to these books that Dillon has behind him. I mean, I'm looking at 3 books right now that literally could change the world. And they all focus, really at the end of the day, they all focus on mental discipline and building that discipline to allow you to create better, to do better, to feel better, to be better, all these things. And it's not hard. It's really not, it's not difficult. The difficulty is breaking the conditioned mindset that we have, and it's just realizing you can change yourself really drastically by just doing a few small key things. I keep going back to that, and I don't want to keep, harping on the same thing, but it's important, guys. It's really important.
Yeah, and just so for reference, so the 3 books that Matt's pointing to are Law of Success and 17 Lessons. There's only 17 things you need to pull from it. You'll pull a lot more, but Law of Success and 17 Lessons, or Law of Success by Napoleon Hill. Winning by Tim Grover, which that's a short book. It's like 200 pages. You'll pull a lot of lessons from there. And then 75 Hard by Andy Frisella. So 3 books. Andy's and Tim's are short. They're under 200 pages. Law of Success is like 800 pages. But again, it's simple lessons, read one at a time and you'll be good to go.
Hell yeah, man. We just gave away the secrets. This should be this is a $1,000 episode that we just handed out.
Man, I'm sure if I just cataloged my library and went through all the books that I have,
We should do that.
Some of it. But yeah, like, I mean, heck, I'm sitting here looking at a lot of this stuff. Like, some of these I still need to read, but like this book on Grant that I still have yet to read. I mean, shit, man, this is 1,000+ pages. Shit, the index is like 20 pages on this deal.
That's a
So
commitment.
yeah, and it's small print, all that kind of stuff. But again, like, it's most everything that you need is hidden in a book, right? And I say hidden because you got to actually read it to find it. So, I mean, a lot of this stuff, like, you know, the beauty of a lot of today and the technology that we have, you've got Audible, you've got podcasts, you've got, people sharing all this information with you in a very digestible format, right? Like, I'm going to do a ton of audio books here through the next 3 months, just because that's going to be the medium that's going to be the easiest for me to consume. But for you, on, like, your drive to work, your drive to pick up the kids, your drive to whatever, you can listen for 10-20 minutes to a book, and the amount of information that you'll be able to consume, piece by piece over a long enough period of time, right? Like, you finish a book a month, that's more than most people do after high school, like,
Yeah.
period. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, the amount of books that I have and reading, like, I get this on occasion, but it's like, because I am young, is I'm able to keep up with most people, but a lot of that is due to just the fact of reading. Like, it's being able to live multiple lifetimes. Sure, I do a lot of stuff too and have experiences and travel and do all that, but most of it comes through reading, and I just assimilate more information than most because I read. And it's really that simple. It's not, you know, because I'm young, it's just I've read more than the average person.
It's powerful stuff, man. I mean, people like to laugh at it and not believe it, but they're idiots, right? Sorry, that's the reality of it. It's powerful shit, and we've turned this episode into kind of a fitness and mindset based episode, and maybe we should do this once a month because I kind of like it. And to that end, if you guys want to run down on some of these books or some of these things we're talking about, let us know. Get in touch with one of us, and we'll put it on a future episode. We'll kind of dig it in and digest how some of these books on mindset and success do translate into those things, right? They translate into success. You said it. When you're working out, when you're doing your running program, when I was on 75 hard, like, you find more success. It is not a secret. It is legit reality. You got to do it. And I'd be happy, I'm sure you would, to, we could dig into this a little bit. It all ties into the construction world in some way or another anyways.
Yeah, well, and this is it, guys. Again, like I brought up at the beginning, our products aren't that different. You're still buying lumber at the same place your competitor is. You're still buying fixtures from the same place. You're still buying, you know, you're getting your blueprints printed at the same print shop, right? Like, all this is very, very similar. So the only difference in how you operate and the success of your business is really between your ears. That's it. Like, that's everything there is to it. Is, what do you know? Who do you know? How do you put that information together? The systems that you've built, right? Which is all mindset. And so, yeah, man, I'd be more than happy to digest and pick apart some of these books, and we could do that once a month.
Yeah, we'll put it on the docket.
That's it, guys. That's gonna be it for this show. It's Matt and I haven't done this in a while. It's good to connect. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my solo episodes this last week. Going through a lot of the mindset stuff, because again, that's all that differentiates us from our competitors, from what we do, is what information we have, how we put it together, and how you bring all these pieces to one cohesive unit solution, product for you and your customers. So thank you all so much for listening. Matt and I appreciate it. Share the show. You definitely got something out of this one. So we appreciate you guys. And until next time.